If you want to avoid duplicate rows in your table, just add a primary key, right? What if you do that and you still have duplicate rows? I'll show you how to avoid them in this video. So you've got a table in your database and you want to avoid having duplicate rows in it. You may have already added a primary key constraint, which is a constraint or a setting you can put onto one or more columns to uniquely identify the row. A primary key value must be unique. But what if you've already added a primary key and you already have duplicate rows and want to avoid them? Here's an example. I'll demonstrate this in Postgres, but the concept applies to all major SQL vendors. We've got a simple person table here. We have an ID, which is the primary key, and then a few fields that represent a person, their first name, last name, and date of birth. Our primary key means that this ID field needs to be unique. But even with the primary key, we can still insert two rows into the table with the same information. We can add two records with the name of John Smith and the date of birth of 1st of Jan 1980. Here is an insert statement to show that. We can insert this data and it is successful. We can then select from the table and see the data in the table. We have two John Smith records. To avoid this, we add something called a unique constraint to our table. A unique constraint is a type of constraint or rule we add to a table. It lets us specify one or more columns and ensures that the column or combination of columns must be unique. This can be declared independently of a primary key, meaning we can have both a primary key and a unique constraint on the table. How can we do this? First, we need to work out what combination of columns are used to identify a duplicate row. This is a business domain question or a requirements question. How do we identify a duplicate? In our table, is a record considered duplicate if it has the same first name and last name? Or is it first name, last name, and date of birth? Let's say we want to allow people to have the same first name and last name, but if they also have the same date of birth, it's considered a duplicate. So our unique columns should be first name, last name, and date of birth. Next, we create the constraint. To do this in SQL, we use the alter table keyword. We specify the table to add the constraint to, then add constraint. Then we provide a name. I'll call this constraint UC_person, so we can tell by the name that it's a unique constraint on the person table. We then specify the word unique, and inside brackets we specify all of the columns that must be unique. In our example, it's the first name, last name, and date of birth. We can run this statement and the constraint is added. If you get an error when you add this constraint, it's likely because there is data already in your table that violates the constraint. You can't add a unique constraint to a table that has non-unique data in it. We can see this error here, which happens because we have two John Smith records with the same birth date. There is a way to create a constraint but have it turned off or disabled. You could do that, but then you would need to turn on the constraint. In either case, you would need to update the data first before adding the constraint or remove the duplicate rows. In this example, we'll update our data. Let's change the first name of John to Jonathan for one of the records. We'll use the primary key to identify it, because if we use the last name or first name or date of birth, then both rows will be updated. We can run the update statement here. Next, we select from the table and see that both rows are now different. We can then run that alter table command to add the unique constraint, which works this time. Our table should now prevent duplicate rows. Let's insert another record to test it. We can insert another row for John Smith with the same birth date. When we do this, we get an error. Duplicate key value violates unique constraint UC_person. This is what we expect and is a good thing. We don't accept the duplicate row into the table. If you have an application or something that inserts this data, they will now get an error and will need to handle it. But using this unique constraint, you can now avoid getting duplicate rows in your table. If you want to know how to find and remove duplicate rows in SQL, check out this video here on my channel. If you want to learn more about database design and SQL, visit my website at databasestar.com. If you liked this video, consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching.